In the opulent palace, it's not the diamonds or silks that inspire caution, but the eyes watching. After Queen Elizabeth II's passing, a secret is unveiled. Kate Middleton is the one chosen to inherit the most precious jewels, not just adornments, but a proclamation of the monarchy's future. Yet as the glittering tiara rests on Kate's hair, she finds herself surrounded by envious, skeptical, and even hostile gazes. Queen Camilla, a woman who has endured endless criticism, will she accept standing in the shadow of a Berkshire girl? The clash between two powerful women has begun. But beyond the dazzling lights, what remains unsaid? The crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling of the Buckingham Palace banquet hall sparkled like captive stars. Warm golden light reflected off wine glasses, sleek black tuxedos, and lavish ball gowns, painting a picture of aristocratic splendor. Outside, the winter evening of 2024 was bitterly cold, but within this room the air buzzed with laughter whispers and the anticipation of something momentous. Princess Anne stood at the center, her demeanor stern yet commanding. Her deep green silk dress hugged her strong frame, and her silver hair was neatly pinned, revealing sharp eyes that gleamed with resolve. She held a glass of champagne but didn't drink, her gaze sweeping over the crowd like a general, preparing to issue orders. Diplomats, royals, and the most powerful figures in the United Kingdom all turned toward her, awaiting her opening speech. In a corner of the room, Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, sat elegantly on a red velvet chair. Her emerald silk gown flowed like the still surface of a lake, accentuating her fair skin and glossy brown hair. Atop her head, the Cartier halo tiara glimmered its tiny diamonds, whispering tales of the past. Kate offered a gentle smile, the perfected expression she had honed over decades under the media's flashbulbs. But beneath that polished exterior, her heart raced. She felt the weight of eyes converging on her, as if the entire room knew a secret she had yet to uncover. Ladies and gentlemen, Anne's voice rang out low but magnetic, silencing every murmur in the room. Tonight we gather to honor the legacy of the monarchy, a legacy built by extraordinary women. Among them, none left a deeper mark than my mother, Queen Elizabeth II. The crowd nodded, some raising their glasses in tribute. Kate bowed her head in respect, but she noticed Anne's gaze fixed directly on her. That look was no accident. It carried a profound meaning, like a warning or a promise. Anne continued, her tone sharpening. Before her passing, my mother left a final wish, one she entrusted me to share at the right moment. It concerned her personal collection of jewels, gems that hold not only material value, but symbolize the responsibility and future of the monarchy. The room seemed to hold its breath. A chill ran down Kate's spine. She glanced at William seated beside her, but he only squeezed her hand under the table as if to say, "Stay calm, everything will be fine." Yet Kate wasn't sure he truly grasped what was unfolding. Anne paused, letting the silence stretch for a heartbeat, as if ensuring every eye was on this moment. Then she spoke, her voice clear and resolute. "My mother chose Catherine, the Princess of Wales, to receive a significant portion of this collection. It is not merely a gift, but her affirmation of the monarchy's future, of a woman who can wear the crown with loyalty and steadfastness." A wave of murmurs rippled through the banquet hall. Heads turned toward Kate, eyes filled with curiosity, admiration, and even envy. Kate kept her smile in place, but inside a storm raged. Why me? She wondered, her fingers instinctively touching the tiara on her head. What did the Queen see in me that I haven't seen in myself? These diamonds. They're not just beautiful, they're heavy with responsibility. She recalled her last conversation with the Queen in a cozy room at Balmoral Castle. The Queen had taken her hand, her trembling yet firm grip conveying strength, and said, "Catherine, you must learn to stand tall even when the whole world is watching." At the time, Kate thought it was just grandmotherly advice. Now she realized it was a prophecy. William leaned closer, whispering, "You okay?" Kate nodded, but she wasn't sure she truly was. She felt as if she'd been handed a kingdom, yet simultaneously thrust onto a windswept mountaintop. Anne concluded her speech with a toast, and the room erupted in applause. But Kate couldn't focus on the praise or the clinking glasses. Her eyes were drawn to Anne's, sharp and enigmatic, as if signaling that this story was only beginning. As the banquet continued, a reporter from the Times invited as an honored guest stood abruptly. He smiled, but his voice carried a hint of probing curiosity. Princess Anne, why reveal the Queen's wish now? It's been 2 years since her passing. The room fell silent again. Kate's heart pounded harder. She looked at Anne, awaiting her response. Princess Anne tilted her head, her smile polite yet inscrutable. The time, she said slowly, has come. Fresh murmurs erupted, but Anne offered no further explanation. She stepped down from the podium, leaving Kate with a cascade of unanswered questions. Under the chandelier's glow, Kate felt the weight of the tiara on her head, and for the first time she wondered if she had the strength to bear it. The private library at Kensington Palace was Kate Middleton's sanctuary when her heart needed refuge. The ancient oak bookshelves, stretching to the ceiling, held centuries of royal history, standing like silent sentinels. Light from a Tiffany desk lamp cast a warm glow on worn leather book covers, contrasting with the icy wind whistling through the window frames. Outside, London's winter cloaked the city in thick fog, but within this room time seemed to slow, granting Kate space to breathe. She sat in a linen-upholstered armchair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Before her on a mahogany table rested a red velvet box with gleaming gold trim, freshly delivered from the royal archives. Kate touched the lid, her fingers gliding over the soft velvet, but she hesitated. Inside, she knew were the jewels Princess Anne had mentioned in her speech the previous night: the Cartier halo tiara, the Nizam of Hyderabad necklace, and the Greville chandelier earrings. These gems carried an entire legacy, and a burden she wasn't certain she was ready to bear. Taking a deep breath, she gently opened the box. The desk lamp's light hit the contents, igniting the diamonds like tiny flames. The Cartier halo tiara sat at the center, simple yet elegant, its sparkling gems like tears of history. Beside it was the Nizam necklace, heavy and resplendent, each precious stone telling a tale of power and sacrifice. The Greville chandelier earrings with their dangling diamonds seemed to whisper of the women who had worn them before her. But it wasn't the jewels that startled Kate. A small folded piece of paper slipped from the velvet lining of the box. She picked it up, recognizing instantly the elegant, slightly trembling handwriting of Queen Elizabeth II. Her heart raced as she unfolded the letter, each word emerging like a whisper from the past. Catherine, you are the bridge between past and future. These jewels are not for decoration, but to remind you of your responsibility. Wear them with pride and resolve. You are stronger than you know. Elizabeth R. Kate read it again and again, each word like a gentle knife carving into her soul. Her eyes stung not from sadness, but from a mix of honor and fear. Why did she choose me? She wondered, her fingers unconsciously touching the Cartier halo tiara. She closed her eyes and memories flooded back like a wave. In 2011, in a dressing room at Clarence House, mere hours before the wedding of the century, Kate, in her pristine white gown, stood before a mirror, her heart pounding with nerves. Queen Elizabeth II entered, petite yet regal, carrying a small box. "This is the Cartier halo tiara," she said, her voice soft but weighty. "It once belonged to my mother, the Queen Mother. Now it will protect you." Kate had bowed her head, feeling the Queen's trembling hands place the tiara on her hair. "It's lighter than I expected, ma'am," Kate said, trying to mask her anxiety. The Queen smiled, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "It will grow heavier, Catherine, when you understand its meaning." At the time, those words felt like a light-hearted remark. But now, sitting in the quiet library, Kate realized the Queen had seen something in her, a strength she was still searching for. She recalled tea afternoons at Balmoral Castle when the Queen taught her about patience, about listening, before acting, about standing firm against the media's storms. "The monarchy is not just a crown," she had said, "but the heart you give to this country." The phone's ring jolted Kate from her reverie. She flinched, nearly dropping the letter. William's name flashed on the screen. She answered, striving to keep her voice steady. "Hello, Kate, you okay?" William's voice was warm but laced with concern. "Anne was just on the BBC. She said something, implying that my mother chose you over Camilla for a central role. The media's going wild. I'm worried this could stir trouble." A chill coursed through Kate. Camilla. She knew the Queen Consort was sensitive about her position, especially after decades of fighting for acceptance. If Anne had truly suggested that Kate was favored over her by Queen Elizabeth, the repercussions could extend far beyond a speech. "I don't know what to do," William Kate whispered. There was a brief silence on the other end before he spoke. "I'll be home soon. Just stay calm, okay?" William said, his voice firm. Kate nodded, though she knew he couldn't see. "I'll try," she said, but as she hung up, she felt lonelier than ever. She looked back at the tiara on the table, its diamond's light seeming to challenge her. Am I strong enough? And she wondered. The women before her, the Queen Mother Elizabeth II, had worn such crowns through wars, crises, and public tempests. And she was just an ordinary girl from Berkshire who stumbled into this world because of love. The pressure to become a perfect queen consort weighed on her shoulders, as if these jewels were not just adornments, but anchors pulling her down. But then she recalled the queen's smile, the way she looked at her with absolute trust. "You are stronger than you know." Kate picked up the letter, pressing it to her chest. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could learn to carry this weight. Unbeknownst to her at Clarence House, another storm was brewing, and the woman at its center, Queen Camilla, stared at the television screen with icy eyes, her hand gripping a glass of wine. Clarence House, the residence of King Charles III and Queen Camilla, exuded an antique charm, yet retained a cozy warmth. Its honey-colored stone walls, thick Persian rugs, and Tudor-era portraits created a space both powerful and intimate. But tonight, the small meeting room beside the fireplace was steeped in tension. The flickering firelight failed to dispel the chill enveloping the room, not from the weather, but from sharp words and veiled glances. Camilla, the queen consort, sat at the head of the table, her hands clasped tightly over her deep purple silk dress. Purple, the color of royalty, usually bolstered her confidence, but tonight it felt like flimsy armor. Her eyes, typically keen and astute, now betrayed unmasked irritation. Before her was an iPad, its screen displaying a BBC News headline. "Princess Anne reveals Queen's wish, Kate Middleton, chosen for jewel legacy." The words paired with an image of Kate Middleton smiling under Buckingham chandeliers stabbed like an invisible dagger into Camilla's pride. Charles III, sat opposite, looking more weary than usual. His gray suit was rumpled at the shoulders, as if he'd endured a long day of endless meetings. He skimmed the documents on the table, reports from media advisors, but his eyes kept darting to Camilla, as if trying to gauge how the storm within her would erupt. "Anne is always trying to overshadow me," Camilla said, her voice trembling with anger, yet restrained by someone accustomed to public scrutiny. She knew full well that announcing this would cause a stir. And Kate, she just sits there smiling, as if it has nothing to do with her. Charles sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Camilla, you're overthinking this. Anne just wanted to honor my mother. This isn't about you or Kate. It's about her legacy." Camilla turned to him, her eyes sharp as a blade. "Don't be naive, Charles. Anne isn't as innocent as you think. She knows how much the public adores Kate. This isn't just about jewels, it's a statement. Anne is positioning Kate at the center, pushing me to the sidelines." A media advisor, James Hartley, seated at the table's end, cleared his throat, attempting to ease the tension. "Ma'am, we can control this narrative. A press release from Clarence House emphasizing royal unity will quash any speculation. The public doesn't need details." But Camilla wasn't listening. She stood pacing toward the fireplace, her hands clenched behind her back. The fire's glow reflected in her eyes, but inside another storm raged. "I fought my whole life for this position," she thought. "I endured insults, hate letters, years of being called the destroyer of Diana's happiness. And now Kate, with her perfect smile and Elizabeth's jewels, is stealing my spotlight." Charles rose, approaching her and placing a hand on her shoulder. "Camilla, you are my queen. No one can change that. Kate isn't a threat. She's just doing her duty." Camilla turned, her eyes glistening, whether from anger or pain unclear. Her duty or her ambition? "Charles, don't you see the public calls her the Queen of Hearts, a title that once belonged to Diana? And now with your mother's jewels, she's being groomed to surpass me." Charles shook his head, his voice softening as if convincing himself. "Kate isn't Diana. And you don't have to compete with her. We're a family, Camilla. We must stand united." But Camilla didn't believe his reassurances. She suspected that Kate, with the public's adoration and Anne's backing, was being prepared to become the monarchy's new icon, one she, no matter how hard she tried, could never match. Elizabeth never truly accepted me. Camilla thought a bitter but familiar notion. She always kept her distance, always judged me. James Hartley spoke again, his tone cautious. Ma'am, I suggest a meeting with the Princess of Wales. A private conversation to clear up any misunderstandings. If the public sees you and Princess Kate together, the rumors will fade. Camilla turned, her eyes lighting up with a new idea. Meet Kate, she repeated, her voice lowering. Yes, I need to see her. To set things straight. Charles frowned, sensing her tone didn't promise a peaceful talk. Camilla, you must stay calm. Any conflict between you two, if leaked, would be disastrous for us. Camilla smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Don't worry, Charles. I know how to handle it. As the meeting ended, the advisors left, leaving Camilla and Charles in the quiet room. Charles looked at his wife, wanting to say something, but only sighed and walked out. Camilla stood alone, her gaze fixed on the dying fire. She knew her meeting with Kate wouldn't just be a conversation. It would be a battle, even if no one said it aloud. The grand drawing room at Buckingham Palace was a masterpiece of opulence, where every detail told a story of power and history. Ancient portraits of kings and queens from the Victorian era hung on the walls, their oil-painted eyes silently witnessing moments that shaped the monarchy. Light from an enormous crystal chandelier cascaded down, casting shimmering patterns on the polished wooden floor, but the room's atmosphere was heavy, as if history itself were holding its breath. Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, stood near a large window, her gaze fixed on the dark garden outside. Her pale gray silk dress hugged her slender frame, but its softness couldn't mask the tension in her posture. Her hands were clasped before her fingers twisting together, a nervous habit she'd never shaken. She had received an invitation from Queen Camilla for a private meeting this morning, and though William had reassured her that all would be well, Kate couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into a battle unprepared. The sound of heels clicking on the wooden floor, steady and purposeful, broke the silence. Kate turned to see Camilla enter. The queen consort looked like a living statue of composure, dressed in a deep blue cashmere gown, her blonde hair pinned up to reveal gleaming pearl earrings. But Camilla's eyes, cold and probing, told a different story. They were the eyes of someone accustomed to fighting for her place. Catherine, Camilla said, her voice low and courteous, but tinged with a challenge that made Kate feel tested. Thank you for coming. I think we need to talk. Kate offered a slight smile, the one she'd practiced thousands of times before cameras. Of course, ma'am. I'm always ready. Camilla gestured toward two green velvet armchairs by the fireplace. Sit. We don't need to be too formal. They sat separated by a small tea table. A silver teapot and two white porcelain cups sat untouched. The silence stretched for a few seconds, heavy as the air before a storm. Camilla tilted her head, her eyes never leaving Kate. I've heard about the Queen's letter, she said slowly, as if weighing each word. A letter written just for you. Quite special, isn't it? Do you think Elizabeth truly wanted you to overshadow me, Catherine? The question struck Kate like an arrow, but she was ready. She took a deep breath, keeping her voice calm yet firm. Ma'am, I don't wish to compete with anyone. The Queen's letter is an honor, but also a responsibility. Those jewels aren't a reward. They're a reminder of my duty to the monarchy. Camilla smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Duty, she repeated, as if the word held a different meaning in her mind. You speak well, Catherine, but you must admit the public's adoration of you is becoming an issue. They call you the Queen of Hearts, a title none of us chose. Aren't you worried that could destabilize Charles's reign? Camilla's words were sharp, but Kate sensed the pain beneath them. She knew Camilla had endured decades of public criticism, comparisons to Diana, and now being measured against her, younger, more beloved. But Kate refused to be drawn into that emotional trap. She straightened, meeting Camilla's gaze. Ma'am, I can't control how the public sees me, but I can control my actions. I'm here to support the monarchy, not divide it. Camilla raised an eyebrow, clearly unprepared for Kate's confident response. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a near whisper. You're very good at maintaining your image, Catherine. But be careful. A crown may be beautiful, but it can also crush its wearer. Kate took a deep breath, and when she spoke, her voice was calm but powerful. I'm not afraid of the crown, ma'am. I'm only afraid of failing those who trust me. The air between the two women seemed to freeze. Camilla studied Kate, her expression shifting from anger to something less decipherable, perhaps reluctant respect. But before she could reply, the door swung open. Princess Anne strode in, commanding in a navy suit, her silver hair gleaming under the light. I hope I'm not interrupting, she said, her voice tinged with humor, but her eyes sharp as if she'd sensed the room's tension. Camilla stood, her hands tightening. Anne, she said, her voice strained. I didn't know you were invited. I wasn't, Anne replied, stepping toward the fireplace. But I thought I should be here, to prevent any misunderstandings. She turned to Camilla, her gaze unflinching. My mother chose Kate because she believed in her. You should respect that. Anne's words cut through the tension like a blade. Camilla's lips tightened, her face stiffening. She glanced from Anne to Kate, then turned, her dress swishing across the floor like a gust of wind. I see, she said coldly. Thank you for clarifying, Anne. Without another word, Camilla left, leaving Kate and Anne in a meaningful silence. Kate's heart still raced, but for the first time she realized she wasn't just a passive princess. She had stood her ground not only for herself, but for the legacy Queen Elizabeth had entrusted to her. Anne placed a hand on Kate's shoulder, a rare gesture of closeness. You did well, she said, her voice low. But this is only the beginning. Kate nodded, her eyes drifting to the chandelier, its light twinkling like stars. She knew Anne was right. This confrontation was over, but a greater battle loomed. Banqueting house with its soaring ceiling, adorned with Rubens frescoes, was a symbol of royal grandeur. Tonight, light from silver candelabras and crystal chandeliers blended, casting a radiant glow over the room. Diplomats, politicians, and influential figures from around the world gathered in resplendent attire, their laughter and clinking glasses forming a symphony. But all eyes, all attention were on one woman at the center, Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales. Kate entered the banquet hall, the Cartier halo tiara sparkling atop her glossy brown hair like a small halo. The Nizam of Hyderabad necklace encircled her throat, its diamonds and pearls swaying each gem, a reminder of the legacy she carried. Her ivory ball gown with its delicate cuts made her look like a goddess from myth. But what truly captivated the crowd wasn't her attire or jewels. It was her eyes. Once filled with self-doubt in the Kensington Library, they now shone with newfound confidence, as if she had discovered the strength Queen Elizabeth II always believed she possessed. Cameras flashed relentlessly, murmurs spreading as guests whispered about her. The Queen of Hearts, a French diplomat, murmured to a colleague, the phrase catching like wildfire. Kate felt the gazes but didn't shrink. She stood tall, shoulders relaxed, her smile gentle yet authoritative. Inside, a small voice rose, not of fear but of resolve. I won't let them see me waver. William stood beside her, dashing in a black tuxedo, his eyes brimming with pride. He lightly touched her arm, whispering, You're more beautiful than ever. Kate smiled at him, warmth spreading through her chest. But she knew tonight wasn't just about appearances. This was the moment to prove she was worthy of the jewels, the Queen's letter, and the public's trust. When it was her turn to speak, Kate stepped onto the podium, the chandelier's light making her tiara gleam like a star. She took a deep breath, her hands resting lightly on the wooden lectern, and began. Ladies and gentlemen, her voice clear and warm, resonating in the hushed room. Tonight we gather to honor the United Kingdom's legacy built by women and men who dared to bear great responsibility. Queen Elizabeth II, who guided us through our darkest moments, taught me that each jewel is not just an ornament, but a story. And each story reminds us of our duty, not only to the past, but to the future. The crowd was silent, captivated by her sincerity. Kate continued, her gaze sweeping over faces from diplomats to reporters. The jewels I wear tonight don't belong to me. They belong to history, to those who wore them before me, and to those who will follow. They remind us that unity, in family, nation, and global community, is our greatest strength. Thunderous applause erupted as she finished. Cameras flashed, capturing Kate standing there, not just a princess, but an icon. At Clarence House, miles away, the mood was starkly different. Camilla sat in the drawing room, a glass of red wine in hand. her eyes glued to the television replaying Kate's speech. The fireplace's glow flickered on her face but couldn't dispel the darkness within. Each of Kate's words, each smile, was a knife reminding Camilla of what she'd lost, or never truly had. She recalled the confrontation at Buckingham when Kate responded with a resolve she hadn't anticipated. She'd thought Kate was a girl she could control, a beautiful but fragile flower. But now, seeing Kate on the screen, Camilla realized she'd been wrong. I was wrong to think I could control her. She thought, her fingers tightening around the glass. Kate isn't just a princess. She's the future. She set the glass down, her eyes misting, not from anger but from a painful acceptance. She couldn't compete with Kate, not because she lacked power, but because Kate had what she didn't, the love of a new generation. The Kensington Palace gardens at sunset held a gentle beauty, as if time had paused to make way for tranquility. The rose bushes, meticulously tended, through generations bloomed under the golden orange light, their sweet fragrance filling the crisp winter air of London. Each flower with its delicate yet resilient petals seemed to echo Queen Elizabeth II, a woman who stood firm through countless storms, leaving a legacy that would forever flourish. Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, walked along the cobblestone path, her green wool coat wrapping her against the chill. Beside her was Princess Anne, striking in a gray suit, her silver hair glinting in the sunset. The two women from different generations walked in silence, but it wasn't awkward. It held a deep understanding, as if both knew this moment marked the end of one journey and the start of another. They paused by an old wooden bench where Queen Elizabeth once loved to sit and admire the garden. Kate gazed at the roses, her heart heavy yet lightened. After the banquet at Banqueting House, she had become the media's focus, hailed as the Queen of Hearts across newspapers and social media. But she didn't let the praise blind her. She knew glory came with challenges, and the royal undercurrents hadn't fully subsided. Anne broke the silence, her voice low and steady. "You did well, Catherine. Last night you didn't just wear the crown, you showed the world what it means." Kate smiled, a genuine but slightly shy expression. "I'm not sure I did much, ma'am. I just tried not to let the Queen down." Anne tilted her head, her eyes sharp yet warm. "My mother didn't trust easily. If she chose you, it's because she saw in you what I see, a steadfast heart and an unyielding spirit. But I owe you an explanation." Kate turned curious. "An explanation?" Anne nodded, her gaze drifting to the garden as if peering into the past. "I revealed my mother's wish about the jewel collection, not just because the time was right. I did it because I wanted the world to know she chose the right person. You are our hope, Kate, not just for the monarchy, but for what it stands for." Anne's words were like a warm breeze dispelling the last traces of doubt in Kate's heart. She thought of the Queen's letter, its elegant yet powerful lines. "You are the bridge between past and future." She realized that Anne, with all her sternness and mystery, had always quietly protected her, not for personal gain, but for her mother's legacy. "Thank you," Kate said, her voice soft but sincere. "I promise to wear these jewels with loyalty and humility. But I want to do more. I want to turn the Queen's legacy into something meaningful for everyone." Anne raised an eyebrow, a rare smile flickering on her lips. "What's your plan?" Kate took a deep breath, her eyes alight with determination. "A charity exhibition showcasing the Queen's jewels. Each gem will tell a story about her, the women before her, and the responsibility we share. The proceeds will support mental health and children's education initiatives, causes the Queen always cared about." Anne nodded, her eyes gleaming with approval. "A worthy idea. My mother would be proud." They continued walking, the sunset fading, giving way to the first stars. Kate felt a peace she rarely experienced in recent years. She had faced Camilla, the public's pressure, and her own doubts. She was no longer the trembling girl in the library clutching the Queen's letter. She was Catherine, the Princess of Wales, ready to bear the crown and all it represented. Could Kate transform the Queen's legacy into a beacon for the monarchy's future? Like, share, and leave your comments about this story.